Our guest today is waiting in the green room, so we're gonna go ahead and bring her in. My guest today is Tina Desiree. Tina is host of the 34th District, and she also has a blog. And one of her articles really caught my attention recently, and I wanted to bring her on to talk about it. Tina, how are you?
Hey, Ron, how are you? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine. So you're live. We're on the air.
Okay.
Thank you for joining me.
100%.
Can you move your camera down a tiny bit? We're not getting your whole face.
Yeah, I can. Hang on. Let me. There's nobody else here with me to frame this.
I understand. We're all dealing with the reality of this year of our quarantine,
right?
land. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, that's better. So how are you doing, first of all?
Good. It's
actually,
kind of funny.
Can you move it down a little more, actually? Like a little bit more.
Can I do what?
Can you move it down a little bit more, actually?
Yep. Hang on. Might as well get it set right now. Better?
Yes.
Okay.
So how are you doing, first of all? Let's start with the basics.
Good. It's interesting. I just did a special report on the exit polls for Status Coup.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people thought that it was going to go differently than it did.
Okay.
So I interviewed John Zogby. I interviewed Dr. Rodolfo Barragan. Barragan's the guy that did the initial Stanford study back in 2016 against the discrepancies between Clinton and Sanders in the primary.
Yeah, I've had him on the show before. I like him a lot.
Okay.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, so both of them basically said that we shouldn't trust the exit polls because they're so faulty in nature, and the research, they have no idea about what's underlying them, and so we should just not be trusting them. And if we really want to do exit polling to check election fraud, we need to start coming up with a separate system, because currently the system's run by the news organizations,
right?
And the way they set the polls up is to predict outcomes of elections. They're not set up. And to do that, and as the night progresses, you've noticed how they change the numbers. It's because they are weighting them to the actual election results. So there's really no way to use that muddied data to check anything.
Mm-hmm. So let's get into the article about that from yours that I really like. No, that's good stuff. I just haven't seen the report, but so you wrote an article about Wealth of Nations. Now, so Wealth of Nations is by Adams, and it's one of those books that is often used as a justification for capitalism.
Yeah.
And some people, I'm one of these people, and you're one of these people, that have actually read the book cover to cover, which I do because I'm a guy who knows how to party. It's 600 pages. It's 600 pages.
Yeah, it's long.
You read it, and you're like, wait a second. This dude's not saying what they think he's saying. I don't want to say it all, because there's definitely some stuff in there where it's like, okay, I get how they made these connections. But when you read between the lines, this dude was not advocating for anything close to the system we have.
No.
What you say in the article, you're like, he'd be appalled.
Yeah.
If he saw what we did. He'd be like, this is not even close to what I was talking about. So let's get into some of the article. I want people to read it, so don't give away everything, but kind of give like your summary and your take on it. And then I'll give mine, and we'll just kind of geek out about Wealth of Nations like two people do today.
Yeah, no, I love it. So the reason my impetus for writing this article to begin with is so I have a master's in philosophy. So I spent a good 10 years in the philosophy department at a university, geeking out on all of these things. But my first beef is this: Adam Smith he's an Enlightenment writer. He wrote before capitalism was even an idea. That's a 19th century concept, right? So to tag him as the father of capitalism is just patently wrong. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
What he's mainly arguing against in Wealth of Nation is something else called mercantilism, which is also a precursor to capitalism, right? But it's not the same thing. And I think one of the fundamental things that people miss about Adam Smith is that he measured wealth in terms of labor, not in terms of gold, right? And that's a big difference. So for him, an unhealthy society is one that has high profits and low wages, right? He thinks a good, quote unquote, free market system would be one in which everybody gets their fair share and is taken care of, right? So we're talking about high wages and low profits, which is the opposite of what you would see in a current neoliberal system, right?
Yeah.
So that's what was my initial motivation for writing this. And I just think he's a very bastardized philosopher. He wrote another book called Moral Sentiments. And
see, I haven't read that.
Oh, you haven't read that? Okay, so what's interesting about that is that, so Adam Smith is, he's pretty altruistic, and he pretty much argues that human beings are capable of deep empathy, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is important because in Wealth of Nations, when he talks about the invisible hand, right? Everybody that's ever gone to college has had that one line thrown at them about the invisible hand.
Yes.
And everybody wants to sort of construe that as this sort of libertarian, and I use libertarian in the sense of the American word, Ayn Rand kind of a culture.
Yes.
And that's not what he meant at all. When he talks about it, in fact, when he talks about it in Moral Sentiments, he describes a situation in which a wealthy landowner gets control of all the land, but that we shouldn't worry about that because the wealthy landowner is going to make sure that everybody gets their fair share and all the resources in the land will be divided up and everybody's taken care of. Does that sound like an Ayn Rand sort of idea to you?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, that's the thing. It's like when you read, because people just take invisible hand and then they're like, yeah, there you go. The market corrects itself. And it's like, no, but he also said without any oversight of this invisible hand, it will become corrupt. He also said that. He also said there should be a very, very small gap between the landowner and, the workers. There should be a very, very small gap between between the owner and the workers, between the CEO and the workers. He didn't use the term CEO.
He was arguing against income inequality. That's correct. Yeah.
Exactly. And yes, he did say that people can have houses and stuff like that. And he was cool with markets. And guess what? You can have all those things in a market socialist economy. I'm not saying that's what he was necessarily advocating for, but the joke I used to say is I was just like, look, if this book came out today, if Wealth of Nations came out today, it would be considered center left, if not just straight up left.
Oh, 100%.
And Fox News would hate it because it is 600 pages and there are no pictures. That's what would happen if that book came out today. And, and I know some people might be like, well, why are you guys talking about a book that came out? Well, because it's just another hole in the argument for the rugged capitalism we're living under. They point to one of their prophets as Adam Smith, which, by the way, I think earlier in the interview I referred to him as Adams. Brain fart on my part. My apologies. But Adam Smith. And meanwhile, it's like if you actually read that book and you read the details, you're like, no, he was not calling for anything close to what we have. And what really sent me on that catapult was actually I was talking to a buddy of mine. This was years ago, a buddy of mine who's a history professor who's like, what Adam Smith was actually saying, he's closer to what Marx ended up saying. He influenced Marx more than he would have a say in what we have now. Right. Nowhere close. And so I did like a little reading experiment for myself where I read Wealth of Nations, and then I read, I think it was volume 2 of Capital by Marx. And I'm like, yeah, these are way more Marx goes a bit further, as far as labor than Adam Smith does. I would attest to that, but I mean they're far closer, and I think like we both said, if Adam Smith saw what we have now, he'd be like, yeah, no, this is not that. You guys are nuts. You guys are freaking crazy.
I think the reason the book matters now, and I think that's a valid point, why are you guys talking about a book that's so old? It matters now because all of these folks that argue for free capitalism, like a free market capitalist society, they reference Adam Smith. And that's true of academia. It's true of many of the business news organizations. So I think it does matter. I think one of the things, obviously division of labor is a big theme in the book. Folks don't know what that means. That's a lot of the free market folks are going to say that's where you divide up into special jobs, and everybody does their special job, and it makes more efficiency in the corporation, and they're able to turn out more widgets faster if they have that, which is true, and Adam Smith brought that up in the first chapter, but he goes on to argue in the end of the book that it's a very monstrous and bad idea because it makes human beings stupid and that they just turn into machines, and that the government should intervene and not allow that to happen. And I think that's right. And I think his other main theme is that he's arguing against this idea of state-sponsored monopolies, right? And a state-sponsored monopoly is just that. If you want to kind of put it into modern parlance, I think a good description is regulatory capture, the lack of the Department of Justice not wanting to break up monopolies, but allowing them to flourish and get bigger. I mean, we now live under a corporate oligarchy where just about every industry has a giant conglomerate at the top that controls everything. And it's being done through a bot Congress and through regulatory capture. So I think that he would find all of that very appalling. Also, Karl Marx he has some criticism for Adam Smith. I think Marx's idea was that his criticism was that he thinks that Smith saw the whole of society as a commercial enterprise, right? And that would make all of his members salesmen, sort of an idea. And, and I get what Marx is saying there, but even Marx, who I love, I love Marx, I think even Marx gets Smith a little bit wrong with that. Because I think if you look at the whole of what Adam Smith says, and you really consider his other book, Moral Sentiments, you'll see that he's a very empathetic individual. And he argues that human beings are capable of doing things out of benevolence and that they're not always self-serving and self-interested. And I think that's an important takeaway.
So what made you want to write the article now? Like, what kind of inspired you to be like, this needs to be said?
Good question. I'll tell you what really got under my skin was this new trade bill that we have that is like NAFTA 2.0. I was pretty angry that so many of the Democrats got on board with this shitty trade bill. I think really Bernie Sanders was the only one willing to say it was crap. And
I think Omar voted against it. I think Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders was against it. But yeah, it was a small handful that actually. Oh, and by the way, we never talked about that. Why? Because the resistance was working on impeachment. They were gonna impeach Trump because they're the resistance. Meanwhile, they're handing him gift after gift after gift after gift. One of the many gifts, which we won't go down the whole list because it would take way too long, but one of the many gifts was handing him a new NAFTA that he was going to be able to campaign on, and oops, he already has.
Yeah, and I also thought it was really disingenuous that folks like Warren were out there saying the FAL-CIO is okay with this trade bill, but in reality, there was a large argument going on internally between the labor groups. For example, the United Auto Workers was very much against the bill because it didn't do anything to really correct the point of origin problem that existed in the NAFTA bill. And that should have been talked about a whole lot more.
Well, I mean, I think at one point Bernie Sanders did a good job addressing that because they tried to get him in a gotcha moment where they were like, well, this one union happens to be for it. And Bernie just said, and every other union in the country is against it. Every single other one. They got one to go with it. Every other one is completely against it. Because it's a terrible thing.
It is a terrible thing, and the Democratic Party is literally killing us with incrementalism, right? So they want to argue that we can't fix everything, right off the bat, and instead we have to accept this lesser evil kind of crap. Well, we keep accepting this lesser evil crap to the point now where it's so far gone, I don't even know if it can be fixed. I mean, and I don't mean to sound hyperbolic with this, but it just feels that way to me at this point. This last trade bill was like, I couldn't believe it was actually happening. My thought was it's better to not pass any trade bill whatsoever and to renegotiate something that's better. And they just refuse to do that.
Of course. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm at the point, especially coming to grips with this pandemic and how we are completely unprepared to handle anything like this.
Yeah.
And why aren't we prepared? It's certainly not because we don't have the resources. We do. We're the richest country in the world. It's because when you have a system set up for profit above all else, you just never set up to handle any type of thing because your first priority isn't taking care of people. It's not rocket science. And our federal government has made it clear we're on our own. I mean, I when I hear Trump talk, and of course Trump is just, the puppet at the top. But when I hear Trump talk now, it's like I think about my first job out of college where I worked for this book publisher, and the book publisher wasn't doing so well financially. And I know you're probably thinking, like, book publishing, that's really lucrative. I can't imagine. But this book publisher, not doing great financially. And it became obvious that they were going to go out of business soon. And every morning, the owner, like the main guy, he would have a pep talk for all of us. And it was painfully obvious. We were like, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. I don't think we're going to be doing this much longer. That's how I feel whenever Trump's. I'm just like, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. I don't think we're going to be doing this much longer, this being the United States. Like, we have no freaking idea what we're doing. And the biggest takeaway is, hey, your government not only doesn't care about you, has no idea how to deal with any of this, but they're actually working adamantly against you because they're using all of this for a corporate giveaway. The banks have gotten how many trillions? We've had a corporate giveaway with all of this so far. And I mean, I'm at the point now to like get on the theme that you're talking about. Like, I don't know if it can be fixed. I think federally, no, I don't think it can. I don't
think it can either, Ron. I mean, look, the bailout you're talking about, it's worse than TARP was. There's no two ways about it. What they should have done was a straightforward emergency UBI where every American, like a la Bernie Sanders' plan, got $2,000. This thing that they just passed basically has given free money to the Placone, and they're going to turn around and they're going to buy more of everybody else's distressed assets. That's what they're going to do. It's going to be way worse than TARP.
Yeah.
Sorry, my phone is
I thought that was a tea kettle. That's your phone?
I have the
Is your ringtone a tea kettle?
Yes, my ringtone.
Oh, nice. That's cool. That's like, well, now I want to have tea.
I
wore a Clash t-shirt for you today. I know we're both punk rockers.
We are both punk rockers. I'm a big fan. I mean, that quote from Jello Biafra from Dead Kennedys about Dianne Feinstein.
Yeah.
Still one of my favorites. What was it again? A banker, bootlicker, bankster.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the beautiful thing. The beautiful thing about California politics is like you can kind of point and you can just be like, Jello Biafra has been warning us about all this stuff since 1979.
I know, right?
When everybody thought Jerry Brown was cool, he was the guy saying, no. Just because he wears a jean jacket, he ain't cool. He's an oligarch. He's a neoliberal. He ain't cool. Jello Biafra, one of the few people sniffing it out from day one.
Yeah.
And doing it via song. I will say that was one of I think it was like last night or the night before where I was just like, oh my God, I want to go to a punk show so bad.
I know.
I just want to go see live music so freaking bad. It's how are you holding up during the quarantine?
It's so impossible. I'm so frustrated though, Ron. I don't know how we fix this because it seems to me half of the Democratic Party, and I'm not talking about the politicians, I'm talking about the voters, are still in denial about all of these things. I'm seeing them right now making claims on Twitter. Well, he's our rapist, so it's better to vote for the rapist with the better policies.
Oh, God, yeah.
Really?
It's unreal. Yeah, it's unreal. And Bernie Sanders, by the way, only candidate without a rape accusation.
I'm going to vote for the guy that is not a rapist.
Can we raise the bar a little bit, USA? Can we do a little bit better than this, please?
Please, exactly. In a twisted way, it feels like Trump is almost the president we deserve when this is the kind of crap we engage in because...
Well, it's the system. It's the system that makes it this way, though. I don't blame the voters. And I see what you're saying, though, where there are certainly... If more people start waking up to this and realize we have to do something drastic here. We have to, it's time to really start organizing in our communities because we're going to have to fix this one neighborhood at a time.
Yeah.
We're going to have to, and then we need to eventually form a new political party. I don't see.
I don't disagree.
I mean, we need a new party at this point. It's not going to happen with the Democrats. It's just not.
I don't disagree, Ron. I'm kind of done with the Democrats at this point in time.
I was done in 2017. But I'm like, all right, well, no one's starting this thing. The people with the political acumen to start it, they've all said no. So I guess however we can try to infiltrate and change things, I'm for, but I don't, and lo and behold, here we are again having these same conversations where it's like, okay,
it's worse this time.
It is worse this time. And we need a real political party at the electoral level that's competitive and that can compete. And it's just one of those things, though, where it's like, you have propaganda shoved down your throats 24 hours a day, where, you know, people are still entertaining this fantasy that, and there's always some item of distraction, you know, and it's been that way conveniently for the past 4 years, where a lot of, you know, the average person hasn't had an opportunity to kind of just take a breath and realize, wait a second, here's the forest. I'm going to look beyond this fake tree and see the forest. Because first you had the fake tree of the Russia hysteria. Then you had the fake tree of impeachment. And you had this overarching fake tree of Orange Man bad. And if we just get rid of Orange Man, everything's going to be hunky-dory. No, things weren't hunky-dory. That's why we got Orange Man.
Exactly.
That's what's really going on
Trump
here.
Is just he's a symptom of the rot.
No kidding. No kidding. And now here's the problem. We don't have a fake tree anymore. We have a real tree that's a pandemic going on. So now, and I'm not saying the pandemic's a distraction by any means. Of course it isn't. But it allows people to kind of deflect and be like, we're in a pandemic. We just got to get rid of Trump, then everything will be fine. And it's like, no, unfortunately, that's not the case.
It's not the case.
I mean, do you listen to Biden talk? Do you think he would be equipped to handle anything like this on his best day?
No. He's a disaster. He won't even be able to defeat. I don't even understand why they don't see this. There's no way he's going to beat Trump.
There's no way.
Even if Trump entirely implodes the economy over the coronavirus, I still don't think Biden could win.
I don't either.
This is insanity. I mean, I don't either.
Well, here's the thing I would say though, and is a tank coming for your house? What's going on?
Okay, so randomly, can you hear that? Okay, so I have no idea how this is happening, but they showed up in front of my house this morning and they're repaving the entire street with like these giant machines.
Oh, brilliant! There was construction going on underneath my apartment the other week. I'm just like, oh, I'm glad that's the one essential. That's an essential service right now.
I know, it's so weird, right?
And they started at 7 a.m. They were like, "Here, you're kind of miserable already. We can."
And it smells like tar everywhere.
Oh, jeez, man. And you're in Eagle Rock, right? Are we?
Yeah, I'm in Eagle Rock.
So I'm in Pasadena. Maybe they're just doing it one neighborhood at a time.
I guess
they're
really
gonna.
strange.
Los Feliz, you're next.
They're
gonna make you miserable at 7 a.m. And that's what you're gonna have to deal with. Well, where can people find you? Where can people read this awesome article?
So it's on my Rockfin. I'm pretty much posting everything on Rockfin these days. I know you're on Rockfin as well.
I'm on Rockfin as well.
So
sign up on Rockfin.
And by doing this, we're actually supporting one of the most important parts of both Marx, Adam Smith, and any sort of social libertarian viewpoint. And this is worker-owned co-ops, right? So Rockfin's a co-op. It's not like YouTube. We all get paid a share of what comes into the site. Yes. And when you sign up, you get access to all the content creators, not just one. So it's kind of a smart setup, I think, and I want to support that.
Awesome. So Rockfin, and it's just Tina, Desiree, and what's the title of the article?
I think it's called The Unwealth of Nations. Let me look. What did I call that?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, The Unwealth of Nations. Adam Smith betrays capitalism.
Boom. There you go. Well, as soon as I saw the title, I was just like, oh man, someone else who feels this way. You're the third person I know personally who feels this way.
Well, you'll be happy to know that Barron's, Barron's, which is one of these financial publications, they actually ran a recent article which kind of blew my mind, that how they should not be embracing Adam Smith as much as they have been in the past, because really he's problematic for a host of reasons, and part of them are the things that we're talking about. So somebody actually got a hold of the rest of the book.
They actually read the thing.
And they actually read the thing and thought, wait, what are we doing?
It turns out we got to read the whole paragraph. Who knew? He says other stuff.
Yeah, turns out that invisible hand thing was actually sort of egalitarian.
Remember when we listened to Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA and didn't bother listening to the verses? And then we found out, oh, wait, this song means something totally different. Books can do that, too. If you don't read the whole thing, you might miss something. Turns out we screwed this up all along with Adam Smith. That's what I want to hear every capitalist say.
Exactly. It's so weird. Anyway, I thought that was kind of wild, so you want to hear about that. But I think the more people discuss this, it's good, because this notion has been so ingrained in folks' mind. And when they hear that their father of capitalism, Adam Smith, actually isn't that guy, and that he actually thinks that labor should have their fair share of every money that comes in, and that people are basically capable of sympathy and altruism. Like, this is just flies in the face of what they've been promoting for years. So I think it's just one more way. I think, look, I'm a big believer that the more people know, the better off we are. And I don't think the mainstream media is doing a good job of presenting news to folks. I don't think there's very few outlets that would have a discussion on anything that went against the corporate oligarchy or against their media ownership, right? Because they're part of the problem. You've got 6 major companies that own pretty much all kinds of media, and they tell you what you're allowed to think, right? If you only watch mainstream media, and by that I mean the cable news, the local news, New York Times, like, you're getting the same stuff, and it's a very narrow view of the world, and it's not helpful. So I think it's our duty and our obligation to try to get more information in the hands of more people. And I think the more they get that information, the less likely they're going to say stupid things like, well, he's our rapist, and we might as well go with the rapist that has the better policies.
Here's hoping. Here's hoping. But the cliff notes, everybody. The cliff notes, everybody. Capitalism has failed every time it's been tried. Every single time. It's failed miserably. And Adam Smith, considered one of the fathers of capitalism, is anything but. He's actually against it. So keep that in mind. Tina, thank you so much for joining me
100%.
today. It's awesome having you. And stay safe during the quarantine.
You
and
too,
hopefully
Ron.
we'll catch a rock show when this is all over.
Sounds good. Have a good afternoon.
All right, you too. Later.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and